You're listening to Honey, We Made a Disney podcast. Two friends since first grade, now dads reliving the Disney movies we grew up on with our own kids. I'm Eddie Ferguson.
And I'm JB Waggoner. And on today's episode, we dive into the grease pit as we review Atlantis, the Lost Empire. But before we go on this grand adventure, Eddie, how are you and the family doing?
We're doing well. I feel like we're coming a little cyclical here. If you remember early on in our podcast, you told of a story of getting your son a bike for his birthday and the grand adventure
Eddie.
that is. And that is what we did for Lewis's birthday. Well, in part, we were kind of like, should we, shouldn't we? And like here, there's a big warehouse store, kind of like Costco.
Okay.
And that's where like once a month we'll go and we'll stock up on kind of big stuff, diapers and all that and whatnot. And we're like going through way back in April, like the end of April. And they had a Spider-Man Huffy bike for like $16.
Wow, that's insanely cheap.
It's insanely cheap for the US. That's like stupid insanely cheap for here. Like things like that usually are like double what it is in the US. So we were like, I feel like we have to. Like we just have to, you know? So I like got the kids to the car. Sarah snuck back up, bought the bike, and it's been sitting in our bathroom ever since. And we were probably more excited to give this bike to him than he ever would have been to receive it. And so I've embarked on the grand adventure of teaching a 4-year-old how to ride a bike. A little, it's a tad early, but with the training wheels, he's doing all right. He's doing pretty good. But it's a little hard because we do live on, we literally live on the side of a mountain. On a gravel road, filled with, potholes in a gravel road. So it's not like easy. Luckily, there's a local park with like a double basketball court, paved concrete. So we go there and like you can ride around and everything. But man, it tries my patience. It's like, oh, here we go. Teaching this baby. No, daddy. And it's like this range of emotions where he wants to go ride his bike. Then we get there and he doesn't want to do it. It's too hard. It's this, it's that, so. But it's a cool Spider-Man bike with like little plastic web things all over it. And yeah, it's fun. It's cute. It's annoying. It's tries your patience, but it's wonderful. You wouldn't want anything else. That is fatherhood.
We might have had a long discussion yesterday about a Frozen bike that was for only $25 on Facebook Marketplace. We're like, oh, this would be perfect for Sissy getting her first bike. And we're sitting there going, is she anywhere near able to ride a 12-inch bike? No, not even close. Is this a crazy good deal? Yes. Do we want to hold on to this bike for an entire year until her next birthday?
Yeah.
And then have to pull her away from it for no. So we had to bite the bullet and not take advantage of that because it was like too long. Even though I'm sure next year when we go looking for a bike, it's going to be like, we're paying $100 when we could have paid $25. But I feel on that.
Yeah.
Like deal is just too good sometimes.
Yeah. And I mean, he loves it. He's doing really good. And it is fun. I'll have to send you the video because now he's quite proud of it.
Oh yeah.
He's, very excited. But enough about me. We discovered that, last week we crossed over into a new year. Mm-hmm. If you are new listening to us, you will, soon find out we are walking through all the movies Disney made from 1988 to 2005, better known as our childhood, our upbringing. Mm-hmm. And every time we cross into a new year, we like to take a trip down memory lane, crack open the old newspapers and see what was happening during that time period and review those things for you here. Because we're not just a Disney podcast.
No.
This is also a place to learn something about history and what went down.
Something.
learn.
Eddie, what were you doing in 2001? What was the most important thing to you in your life in 2001? This was 8th grade?
So 2001, we went
to high school.
8th grade we went into high school in 2001. Yep. So fall of 2001 is when we started our freshman year, which that's a big deal to begin high school. This was right as my family was doing all of our big summer road trips, where we would take like 3 to 4 weeks out of the summer and go do something really big. And so this was the summer we had done like the mid-Atlantic states, spent a big chunk of time in Washington, D.C., the epic American trip to D.C. to go to all the museums and everything. And I was the abnormal kid. I was not bored rolling my eyes. I loved every second in every museum and going through and doing all those things. So that was the summer of 2001 as I remember it, as I recall.
As I remember.
What about you?
I remember that fall being a big one because I was playing high school soccer.
Yeah.
It technically was varsity soccer, but that would imply that there was a non-varsity team that you could have been on, and that was not the case. There was one team, and playing is more like I did make the team. I was on the team, but that was it. Like, that's all I did that year was I remember specifically my dad coming.
Did you get in? You got into some games?
Maybe. I don't know if I got into very much of anything, but I specifically remember my dad coming to, or my mom, one of the two, coming to one of the games where I had zero chance of playing, and they kindly sat in their vehicle nearby the field because it was pouring down rain and bitter cold. And I did not begrudge them whatsoever for doing that. They should not have come out to any of the games because there was no way I was going to play. So that's what I remember about freshman year specifically. That's the memory coming to my head. But Eddie, you got actual American political facts for us from 2001.
Well, yes, and let's start with the obvious one that soon defined the year and defined all of our generation in high school for sure, and that was the September 11th attacks. I think most people who were of somewhat older age, I would say anybody over 10 years old maybe, can like recall that day with vivid memory, vivid recall. I know I can just kind of think through. One of the distinct things that I remember of that day is our first class of the day was geography with Mrs. Wilmot. One of my favorite teachers of all time. Love geography with Mrs. Wilmot. But in particular, this day stands out because, one, we had the big tube TVs up on this, like, bolted up on the
to
wall,
the corner.
Kind of bolted up in the corner. And all we did that day was just watch the news. I think that's what most anybody and everybody did, because we found out of the attacks as we're driving into school. I remember my sister and I driving in, and they broke into the radio station and announced what was going on. So that kind of defined the day. But I remember our then geography teacher, Mrs. Wilmot, pulling down a map, as a geography teacher would, and going, if they really wanted to hurt the United States, they would drop a nuclear bomb on Indianapolis. And we were all like, like, nobody breathed for like 5 minutes as she's explaining this. And she's like, over half of the US population is within a day's drive of Indiana. And she starts like legitimately breaking this down like she was a terrorist mastermind, and had thought through this in great detail and everything. And it terrified the living daylights out of us little freshmen, because as she's explaining it, we see up behind her on the TV screen the two towers in flames, all of this going on, and is like terrified. But Yes, September 11th, 2001. You cannot talk about the year 2001 and not bring that up, which begins everything, right? You have the war on terror. The U.S. invades Afghanistan there shortly thereafter. It defines, President George W. Bush's whole presidency, but this is in his first term, everything like that. So, yeah, that's a very defining moment, not just for the year, but for the decades to come.
Yep. The rest of this is going to pale in comparison to September 11th. And
do you remember that? Do you remember that as well as I do, Mrs. Wilmot?
100%. Eddie is not telling you a lie. That's 100% what she did. Now, she also incorporated, gave us the entire backstory to a group I'd never known of before called the Taliban. That we got
she knew all of it.
She knew. She was she was ready to go. It's almost like she felt it coming and she did her homework the night before. Nope, this was all just immediate recall for all of us students, just so that we could be educated to the highest degree.
She was the same teacher that we had to map the entire world by memory.
One little country intersection at a time.
We were given graph paper and it was just draw not just the continents. I think most people can maybe somewhat get the continents on paper, but every individual country and know the name. And to this day, if you play one of those geography games or whatever that goes through social media, I can get above 90%, which is not half bad for most people.
Mine is nowhere near that, but I do know more than the average person that Jimmy Kimmel asks on the street in Los Angeles.
Yes, I love that segment. I get incredibly frustrated, but yeah.
So in less terrifying news from 2001, here's some
segue from that.
Segue from Hitler. There we go. Sports. We got the Buccaneers won their first Super Bowl up until the recently man who must not be named won them a Super Bowl a couple years ago. The Arizona Diamondbacks won the World Series. Completely forgot about this, but Brad Johnson, or whatever your name is, that their legendary pitcher who can't even remember his name anymore. But I can keep on going. NBA, the Lakers won their second in the middle of this three-peat with Shaq and Kobe before their ultimate demise. Then we also get, for my grandpa, may he rest in peace, also Dale Earnhardt, may he rest in peace. This is the year of his tragic accident. That was my grandfather's favorite NASCAR driver.
That was February. That was during the Daytona 500. I was watching that when that happened. That was weird. That was surreal.
That was a big deal. I think I distinctly remember my grandfather's truck having Dale Earnhardt mud flaps on it. That was his level of dedication. So I had to include him here, even though he's not as big of a name now. But then we also had Barry Bonds, maybe breaking that home run record a little bit against the rules, but that was a big deal as well, with him breaking the home run record right after the Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire years, all of which have gone on to, I think they've all been kept out of Canton out of the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame because of all the things. But it was still a huge thing that happened in the moment.
This was a huge year for entertainment. There was a lot of stuff that was dropping and coming out during this time. Let's start with arguably the more important, the greatest band, U2. I was not a fan of U2 at this time. I found U2 about 4 years later in college, and have since become a rather huge fan. But this is the year that Beautiful Day hits, becomes number one. The album had dropped the previous year, All That You Can't Leave Behind. But this is Beautiful Day, which has kind of become one of their biggest hits, one of their biggest songs. And if you remember the Super Bowl of 2002, so the Super Bowl after 9/11, they they were the band for the halftime show at the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And they do this song. They do all of their big songs. And this is when they drop the scrim in the middle of the stadium and scroll all the names of the people who had died during 9/11 or because of 9/11. So yeah, it's crazy that this song had hit, then that happened, and then they were the halftime show, and it just kind of all worked together. And that was probably one of the biggest moments in halftime history, right? That's definitely up there as one of the big moments. But yeah, other big things. Harry Potter starts off its movie career. This is when Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone movie drops, and we get, which I think is still the biggest franchise of all time. I might be wrong on that one, but I think it is the highest grossing movie franchise of all time.
It's hard to think that Marvel isn't, though. Do they not consider Marvel because it's so many different movies and characters and stuff?
I think that's what it is.
That's got to be it, right? That's got to be it.
I'll double check. Yeah, I mean, if they count Marvel as a franchise, but like usually franchise, you're talking like James Bond, Mission Impossible, things like that are a little more tight. But maybe they do. I don't know. Let's not forget here, probably our favorite movie of all time came out this year. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Drops December of 2001.
I completely forgot that these two franchises started the same year. That's insane. Yeah. That's incredible.
Well, you think about it, I would say, so, in the world going on around us, 9/11 defined our generation, our high school. Specifically, those 4 years, this is all people talked about. This was before things started to kind of get a little suspect here and there on other fronts. And then I would say amongst us as our friendship, probably the most defining thing just from like a fun friends creative thing was Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
We read The Hobbit in freshman year English class with Mrs. Strakowski, and then boom, the first movie hits. We all start reading them. We
learn to drive, and then we can go ourselves to the premiere of it.
We're doing like midnight premieres. Yeah, I mean, then by our senior year, we're like making our Beowulf movie, which is like heavily inspired.
Should get that on YouTube
by the
sometime.
Things that
I would put that thing on. I would put that thing on YouTube if I wasn't afraid of Chris Litcher coming to get me, him finding out, he would come after me and use his military training that has nothing to do with it.
I was going to say he's an officer in the Air Force. You better be careful.
Yeah. I wouldn't do that to Chris.
Best picture is Gladiator, which another, that's a movie we would go and watch all the time together. And a fantastic movie at that. Shrek comes out. This is kind of the first non-Pixar, computer animated film series to go big. I didn't know this until you put this in the show notes. This is when the Odyssey Network gets rebranded to the Hallmark Channel.
Yeah, because
this is a big moment in pop culture.
Hallmark, the card company, bought the rights. The controlling rights for this network, and they rebranded it because they were like, they wanted it to have a better, more identifiable name to it. I was like, that's such a funny little nugget to include, just hide in there.
And now, how many new Hallmark Channel Christmas movies do they put out a year?
It's its own genre. Hallmark movies and Hallmark holiday movies are their own genre now because of this.
But I mean, it's like over 100 new movies a year or something like that. I mean, it's crazy.
It's insane. But they figured out the formula. They figured out what the people want, or what some of the people want. I'm not one of those people, but a lot of people.
Neither am I.
A lot of people.
In case you were hoping we were going to start a Hallmark channel movie podcast, I'm sorry to let you down. That's never happened.
You're going to be let down pretty hard on this. But what we weren't let down by was the craziness of the launch of iTunes, which was insane. Do you remember the Pepsi ads where if some of the Pepsi bottles, you could get a free song from that. That might have been the year after this. I can't remember exactly, but that was such a big deal of like pop open a Pepsi bottle and look underneath and see if you got it. And it was a big deal. Oh, we got a free song. I got a free song here. But iTunes launched here and is the second.
Which to tie that into U2, if the original icon for artists was a silhouette of Bono.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, just to fanboy out here, but
just take the stage and do whatever you want to with it, Eddie. Whereas Napster illegally changed the music industry, this legally destroyed the music industry for a long time, up until Spotify when they figured out how to make money again. Couple sad notes. We got Enron. This is when they filed for bankruptcy. One of the big disasters of all time. There's lots of documentaries and podcasts, etc., about this. In continuation with all the terrorist stuff, we had the shoe bomber, who was gloriously named, even though he never actually set a bomb off. But I think this really escalated all of the security, and why we have to do everything that we have to do now is because of this dude right here, for sure.
Yeah, and you had the anthrax envelopes going around. Like, this was just a crazy year of like not knowing what's safe anymore.
Mm-hmm. I think it was right before this because you could go all the way to the gate, in the airports and watch people come back on.
I remember, my grandma used to fly me to where they lived in Minnesota or Kansas City. And my parents would literally walk me right up to the gate. I'd go get on the plane, fly, it'd be a direct flight. I'd get off the flight and my grandmother was standing right there at the gate.
Different times, Eddie. Different times.
But then post 9/11, nope.
Thanks, Shoe Bomber. Last little bit is GameCube. Nintendo's successor to the N64 came out. And
wah, wah.
there's some fun times with the GameCube. Mostly Cale Bullock had one, so we played a lot of that at his house. But
when I started up in Chicago working at a youth group, they had a GameCube, and they were all like, "How do you know how to play this?" I'm like, "High school, don't worry."
High school. That is it. That is it for the 2001 history that I could dredge up. I'm sure I'll forget stuff and we'll find it in the next time we do this. But even though we're a week late, Eddie, glad we could go down. It's kind of crazy yet exciting yet.
It's a big year.
It's an underrated year. If you like just looking at it, like thinking about, everybody thinks of Y2K, but then 2001 was probably more impactful in just the
more
ripple
consequential.
More consequential. So, but speaking of consequential, the movie we were talking about and its CGI in animation was consequential. As we break deeper into 2001, as we review Atlantis, The Lost Empire.
Cue the Disney sound effect.
Okay, IMDb description for Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Here we go for that. A young linguist named Milo Thatch joins an intrepid group of explorers to find the mysterious lost continent of Atlantis. End scene. Good job on that one, Disney. Good job. Don't give too much away.
Good job on your delivery there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Eddie. That's high praise. High praise.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie, when did you first see this film?
In theaters.
Wow. Okay. Was it a fun experience? Was it like a riveting, rollicking? Were you like going home, like ready to research more about Atlantis itself?
I don't know if I remember. That was. I don't know if we were full into the like now. Yes, I would have come home and like spent an hour on the internet researching everything I could possibly find. I don't know if that was all available then. This movie piqued my interest from the trailer. I remember this, trailer dropping, specials kind of being mentioned and talked about it on the Disney Channel and different things like that. I've always loved these types of adventure movies. And so this just intrigued me from the very beginning. And I have a lot of love and joy and respect for just the overall premise and the originality of this. Like we had never gotten a Disney animated film quite like this before. This was new on so many levels, which has been a theme in the past couple of movies. I think from Tarzan on, they were trying to try something a little bit different. Then we get Emperor's New Groove, which is a lot different. This is very much in that same kind of flow of them trying something different. Do you remember seeing this? Was this a theater view?
I don't.
Was this a home video?
So this is before we were allowed to go to theaters. Still a couple years. We have still a couple more years to go on that funniness. But I don't remember watching it anytime around the time when it first came out. Now that we're getting into high school, not watching cartoons as much, not unless it's like major things. I know you were still in the throes of wanting to watch all this. I was trying to be too cool. I was trying to be too cool for school and didn't really care for stuff like this. I don't know that
You've always been cooler than me. Let's just put that out there.
I don't know about that.
Between the two of us, JB's the cool one. I'm the loser.
I don't know about that. That is not true whatsoever. I know that I've seen this. I don't know that I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like this is the first time I have actually seriously sat down and watched it beginning to end with actually watching it. Like, I'm pretty sure that I was babysitting a kid who watched this and it was on, but I wasn't really engaged with it. So it kind of felt like a first go through, even though I'd kind of already experienced it. So I know that there's a cult following and people that really, really love it, but I had not been a part of that group. Hadn't really watched it, even though I know that that's a big deal, like you had said for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if you there's plenty of articles out there, kind of detailing this. They were making a conscious effort to try something new. And I need to check this out. What year did The Iron Giant come out?
Oh,
I know that's not a Disney movie. So The Iron Giant came out in 1999. Yes. 1999. And it's distributed by Warner Brothers. I think with Iron Giant, I mean, I am nowhere near being like a expert historian or whatever on animation, but there's a clear kind of start to shift in the overall genre of animation. And that's even, loosely termed. There's a famous interview with Brad Bird, who's the director of The Iron Giant, goes on to do things like The Incredibles, Ratatouille for Pixar, who was originally at Disney Animation Studios. He talks about how animation is not a genre, and don't call it a genre. It is a medium. Like, you would never call live action a genre. It is the medium in which this is being presented. And I think with these films, we start to see that take root. And let's explore that. Let's start to try that a little bit. Let's push the envelope with that. Because with the Iron Giant, we get this huge kind of space robot epic, but it's animation, and we've not really seen, up to this point, things needed to be somewhat little more kind of musical or really lighthearted, kind of, comical in nature. And, I think this is Disney's first attempt to say, no, let's try a action adventure science fiction film in the medium of animation. And there are some moments where this hits, and there's some moments, I'll be honest, where you feel it, where it's like, okay, this isn't working story-wise or this or that. But overall, I give huge credit to just how the effort and how they tried to do that. Does that make sense?
I can see that. Yep.
One of the cool things that they do with this is they animated to a 166 ratio. I'm sorry, not to a 230, not the bigger panoramic. Yep. Yeah, sorry.
Wider screen. Yep.
They animated that. So to animate at that, they literally had to go out and buy every animator at Walt Disney Studios a bigger draft table and buy new paper. I mean, they redid everything. They animated in that full panoramic scope. And you feel that. I think there's some moments, we just rewatched Tarzan again because Lewis loves it so much. And there's some moments in Tarzan that really feel kind of cinematic. But in this movie, I think the majority of the shots and the setups of this really feel like some big cinematic adventure. At least to me, it does.
Well, the opener is just, I literally just I wrote down what an opener. Like the intensity, the opening up with a giant literal bang, and then the water rushing in, and they're trying to save themselves, and you got something like scanning the people and pulling this woman, the mom out of there, and then this giant orb that's protecting them, and you got the Leviathan that are like rushing past and stuff like that. It was at 100 from the moment this movie started. Those first, it's only 2 minutes, but it felt like 5 to 10 minutes of just that opening sequence taking place, and it just kind of sets the tone. Not sets the tone for the entire thing, but just like gets the thing like punched right in the face with all of these visuals and action. And this is not typical Disney animation at this point. Whereas you could tell, like we rewatched Rescuers Down Under, and it's pretty obvious. I know that was 10 years before that or whatever, but it's pretty obvious when they're using CGI, and basically up until maybe a year before this, it's still obvious. This, obviously there's a lot in it, but they've mixed the two together more beautifully than they had in any other attempt before this, which I thought was really, really well done on that level. Of that opener, especially loved the stuff with the hot air balloon. Those two sequences for sure stood apart from the rest of it.
Yeah, the overall just art direction of this whole movie is really, I find it fun. It's kind of a Jules Verne-esque future with maybe just a little bit of steampunk, not enough to be kind of like the weird steampunk, but just a little hint here and there to give it enough of a retro future feel.
Well, I think they would have had more, but then that really cool, sweet ship that's like iconic from this doesn't even make it 20 minutes into this film.
I know.
That was so sad.
It is sweet. I know, because it's a sweet, sweet setup.
And you kind of get a little bit of it with when they're fighting the Leviathan as well, which is also like a mechanical creature. And then that's it. Then the rest of the time is on foot, like digging through the ground and trying to get to Atlantis. And then you're in this tropical world for a little bit. And you never, other than the digger to some degree, you don't get a full taste of that Jules Verne steampunk. You will get it more in an upcoming film with Treasure Planet. But
for sure.
And I for sure sometimes mix these two movies up together at times.
Yeah.
But I will say that anytime they kind of, especially in the opening, the first 20 minutes of this film, when they've leaned heavily into that, I really enjoyed that ride aspect of this.
This has got an incredible voice cast too. The lead, Milo, being voiced by Michael J. Fox.
I literally told my wife, "Hey, what's that voice? That's a super recognizable voice. Why do I know that voice?" She's like, "It's Michael J. Fox." She's like, "That's right."
James Garner is in this as well. Spoiler alert, ends up being the bad guy in all of this. But just again, like just a really, I thought there was for this movie, for this style of movie, and you see it coming, like it's not like a surprise.
No.
But just a good bad guy for this style of story.
The surprise one in here that I didn't recognize, and I should have. I feel bad that I didn't know it, but Leonard Nimoy, getting him to be the Atlantean king, doesn't have a ton of lines in this, but is still a major part of it.
Leonard Nimoy is voicing a character in a Disney animated film. That's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal.
Do we want to talk about some of the side characters in this film?
Yeah, let's go through this, because I think this is the side characters. I think Milo is a good main character.
Good plucky,
plucky. There, I wouldn't say he's the strongest. I mean, they're like, and I don't just mean that in physical strength. I mean that just from like character development. I think they could have done a little bit more there with Milo's character to make him a little more intriguing.
Could have done a lot more with Kira. She's
a ton of work.
She is an afterthought in this thing.
But I think it's the side characters together that really round this up. Do you have a list in front of you to punch through?
So first off, we got to talk about with the first guy we meet, Moliere, the guy that likes to dig around in the dirt, who's basically a rodent. Basically is a mole in this, Moliere.
Yeah.
He's the first guy that sticks out because he's so weird.
Dirt, don't disturb the dirt.
Don't disturb the dirt. And he's like freaking out because he's sitting on the dirt. He grabs your attention right away because he's obviously the weirdest of these characters. But the one that sometimes I would laugh and sometimes I would just be in awe of the just weird delivery and just there isn't another character that I've totally seen like him, and that's Vinny, the dynamite guy. His line, Milo, you got something sporty like a tuna? He's got so many hints of different people, like a little bit of a New Yorker, a little bit of a German or Romanian or something like European, and I couldn't understand everything that he was saying, but I just wanted to hear him talk. I don't know what else to put it, but I just wanted to hear more of him.
He's got the gunpowder, nitroglycerin, notepads, fuses, wigs, glue, paper clips, big ones. Just office supplies.
Office supplies.
Office supplies.
Mrs. Packard, she's the prototypical caller. What's the name of it where they would like connect the calls to the right places, like the switchboard operator kind of lady.
Yeah, a switchboard lady. Operator.
This is still part of the end of Disney's smoking period, or most of its history. Yeah. So you still get a little of that in there, but when's
the last movie that they allowed smoking?
I remember it being a big deal when we went to college. They talked about this, that there was that was a big deal that like Disney had said, hey, we're not going to have smoking in here anymore.
Well, and now they give you a warning
label.
Like before you watch Atlantis, there's a little warning label. This contains tobacco. It's like, well, it doesn't contain tobacco. Yeah. I love Jim Varney. It voices Cookie, which is just yes. He voices Slinky Dog in the Toy Story series. Has such a distinguished voice. I I love so many of his kind of his lines and delivery in this movie as Cookie the Cook.
Yeah, I think that just the culmination of these side kind of characters kind of elevate this movie to better than the story itself necessarily lends itself to. Like they kind of helped keep you interested and keep you engaged.
Yeah, you've got Dr. Sweet, you've got Audrey Ramirez, the mechanic. You've just got a good, even Lieutenant Sinclair, who's kind of the second in command, tortured character there a little bit at the
Helga.
end. You just got these great. It's a great amalgamation. Let me use that word. I think that there's just an alchemy there of these little bit characters, these that just kind of come together and form this fun ragtag team of explorers. And I like those moments when they're all kind of together there bantering, either making fun of Milo or when they first bring him in and everything. And then at the very end, when they're all working together, you kind of see all of that.
Really what's funny about this film is I started kind of losing a little bit of interest in it after they get to Atlantis. And it's kind of like this. I'm getting vibes of Pocahontas and Avatar and some of those other. Okay, you've gotten to the real world, but whereas the other ones kind of made it this like really majestic place, it almost seemed kind of sad. Like Atlantis itself was kind of sad. They're not even using their technology because they just stopped trying to figure out how to make these motorized systems work and stuff when all they had to do was hold their hand over it still. Everyone's just kind of resigned to the life that they're living, other than Kida herself, who is the chief, like the chief's daughter or whatever. But it was just so funny how like once they actually got in there, that's where I was like least excited about what was going on and started to lose energy at that point. I don't know how you felt about that.
I'm right there with you. I think I would have preferred to have not seen an Atlantis that was, I don't know, in disrepair or, like, we're down on our luck. There was a little bit there that you're excited. You're right there with Milo in this adventure to go and you get there and you see it and it's like, never mind. It's like
it echoes another movie that I may have mentioned in the past and may have said at one point that's my guilty pleasure film, and that is Tomorrowland. You get all the way to Tomorrowland and it's
that is a great comparison because I love Tomorrowland all the way up until they get there, and then you're like
super let down.
Oh. And I think what it is it's depressing. Like you just like both places are just kind of sad and depressing. And then, this movie picks up when you've kind of got the little bit of the fight at the end and everything. But I think what is hard about all of that is I don't get the whole heart of Atlantis crystal thing.
Let's park here for a second. Yes.
Possessing somebody or like taking them or whatever. And I think what's hard with that too is you're totally right. Kida is such a one-dimensional character. Like she doesn't even get 2 dimensions. It's just like one. Which is odd because you've had all of these great little side characters all leading up to this moment that don't have many lines, but they're fully fleshed out and dimensional, and you're enjoying that.
There's something unique about each one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get there and like not even vanilla ice cream. Like that's not even a good comparison.
Her best moment in that whole thing is her line, "You are a scholar, are you not? Judging by your diminished physique and large forehead, you are suited for nothing else." I was like, that was the highlight. That was the best thing she said in the entire thing. And I was like, I have to get this down. I may have had to Google it afterwards, but you're right. Like she doesn't really give anything unique to the story. And it's so sad because like this is supposed to be the big draw, and it's like, oh, it's Milo meeting someone from the people that he studied for so long, and she doesn't give much other than help us figure it out. We don't know what we're doing either. That's it. That's what you got. And kind of pulling your dad to like let the new people in, and oh, that's also the wrong decision. He shouldn't have let them in.
Well, and then you have that moment of, when the guy, oh, he's the bad guy. Oh, I'm going to hold her captive until you do that. Like that whole, it just doesn't feel like the stakes don't feel real.
Rourke
like
is
you're not
good.
Invested enough in here.
No.
Yeah. And you're just kind of going, okay, and then there's like, well, where is the heart of Atlantis? And the reveal, the reveal is presented as it's like, whoa, but you don't feel that at all
the whole time. It took them 2 seconds.
Yeah.
2 seconds to figure it out.
Like I wanted a little bit of a treasure hunt in that moment. Like, okay, give us
like national treasure.
Give us like Milo having to figure. Yeah, give me a little national treasure. Like figure out some clues, put this together, connect this. Like
this is the thing.
The necklace, something I don't know.
So this is the thing. The more we keep talking about this, the more we realize that this storyline is kind of picked and pulled apart from other stories. We've said Pocahontas and other things like that, but this is also Tomorrowland has some shades. Now, granted, this movie came out before that, so I can't say that it's that.
Yeah.
But the other one is like the whole crazy grandfather that nobody believed in, and I'm carrying on his lineage. That's National Treasure takes that on itself too with Nicolas Cage later on. But
and I think you're hitting something good. This movie has so many great elements to it. What happens there in Atlantis should bring all of those elements together, and you should feel this crescendo, and the opposite happens where it's just like blah, and you don't ever fully recover from it. Even though there's that kind of cool little.
It gets weirder.
It gets weirder, yes. When she like ascends into the heart and possessed, and then they put her in the cage. Like I don't know
that. Like had they planned on it?
Yeah, like they had the cage ready to go.
Like how did they know that this was
perfectly?
I don't understand that. It took me a while to figure out.
Well, I don't even get like if that happens so that she can protect the city, why can they just lock her up so easily? And like she's defenseless.
She goes in willingly. She's not even trying. It's like the gemstone being whatever that has they say it's got a consciousness of its own, like takes her mom, then they protect the city, but the mom doesn't get out, but Kira does.
So as soon as Kira comes back, I'm confused too. Like as soon as Kira comes back, I'm going, where's the mom? Does the mom get to come back?
And it also doesn't feel like it actually did that.
Where'd she go?
It doesn't feel like it protected itself very well. If it's like it didn't even create the bubble right when Kira takes over, it like waits to do that until a later point when and then there's something about the father. He's like tried to use it as a weapon, and maybe that's what set off. Like they don't explain or even give you much to go on. And there's like the eternal style protectors that are come up and stand up. It's like there's so many random things in the mythology of this crystal that they almost tell you too much, but not the right things.
Not enough.
It was tripping. I was tripping watching this, going like, where did any of this stuff come from?
Well, and I think what needed to. One of two things should have happened. If I were to go back and rewrite this script, I would, the little bits of the first half that we get are so good. I love the, journey to the center of the earth style adventure. Give me more of that and less of Atlantis. That's option one. Like, boom, we arrive to Atlantis and we've traversed all of this adversity, and here we are. And then there's the reveal he's really the bad guy, and we got to fight it out for the real treasure we find. But just keep that section shorter, or like get to Atlantis and it's full-fledged, and give me more dynamic characters and give me a stronger understanding of that world. You had such a clear world building at the beginning. It almost makes the fact that it's weak at the end even weaker because it's so strong at the beginning. It's like the pitch is, hey, let's do like Journey of the Center of the Earth, and we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. But where are they going? Where are they going to end up? I don't know. Let's say they end up at Atlantis. Oh, okay. Yeah, Atlantis is cool. Yeah, and they find some crystal thing or whatever. Oh, we'll figure it out.
Spoiler alert, they didn't figure it out. They did not figure it out.
Which is hard because I want to absolutely unequivocally just love this movie. I want to just like wholeheartedly step out and be like, 5 gummy worms, the best movie Disney's ever made. Like I want to, just because of the genre and just trying something totally new, but I can't because it's not there. It didn't finish strong enough there for it.
The part where
but it's got so many great elements.
The part of it that really ended poorly for me and jumped the shark, if you would say, is when Rourke turns into a crystal red monster or something for 2 seconds.
Yes.
He first off gets the prototypical, the bad guy has nothing left to lose and his plan is completely falling apart and he's just got to kill the hero. So he goes into that level. But then the touching hit, like cutting him with the glass from near Kira in the case, turns him into something else we have never seen and never see again. I'm so confused what that is too, but that's where I was just like, yeah, this is just not, this is really poorly done on the most crucial part of this world building.
Yeah, you just didn't land it. You didn't stick the landing. But it was a great ride.
The bracelet too. She somehow has her mom's bracelet at the end. Is that what I was seeing? She's like holding the bracelet.
Yeah, because at the opening, when her mom gets taken up, she's holding her mom's hand.
So did she reunite with her mom? Is that what happened?
No, as she's going up, she is like holding on, and her mom slips out, and the bracelet is like falls down, and she catches the bracelet.
But why is she holding the bracelet when I just don't understand why they put so much emphasis on holding the bracelet when she leaves the gem or whatever? The Eddie is literally holding his hand up in the air and looking sad and forlorn for all of you podcast listeners. I want to defend this. Like I want to be like, no, but it was good. But I have no ground to stand on. It's just so frustrating. Because I look at this and I go, man, it was not a huge commercial success. It's been a more cult favorite, cult following.
It has held on. It had a budget of $120 million, which is a lot for an animated film at that time, and because it was a whole new animation style, and it grossed $186 million at the box office. So made some money, but it's not a huge hit like many, were. And it's sad because I immediately jump to this and go, there's so many cool ride potentials in a Disney park for this. Like if this ended well as a good movie, I think it could have been a bigger commercial success, and we could have gotten some really cool Disney park stuff out of this because the initial pitch is so good. It's so solid. The first half of this movie is so good.
Did they bring any of this to the parks at all?
No. On like rare ticketed events, they will bring out Milo and Kita. But that's about all that we ever get. They'll do a few kind of little special merchandise drops, pins, or this or that. Because it still does have a strong cult following. But no. Which is so sad. Because can you imagine this, right? Like a sweet Adventureland ride, easily.
Or at least turning this submarine instead of Nemo.
Yeah.
Atlantis.
Oh, yeah.
That's what
that would be a really good one.
So
I have to give a nod to James Newton Howard. He is back again. This is his second movie after Dinosaur with Disney. I love the soundtrack to this movie. It is one we listen to quite often. Lewis will now even request that we listen to this. He asked for the City movie. Can we listen to the City movie music? That's so yeah. Have you ever just pulled it out and just listened to just this?
No, I kind of want to now. But the other thing that's going through my head.
You should, and listen specifically to the submarine track.
Okay. The thing I'm wondering is, what is the most trash Disney soundtrack in your mind? Like, what's the worst? That you're like, this was really badly done. Has there ever been one? And is their trash everybody else's gold?
Oh, that might be something I need to take some time to think through. Because I mean, we're talking. Well, I was not a big fan of Mulan. There's a few songs that I like from Mulan, but I think as a whole, it doesn't hold up. Are you saying that I say this too often? Was that
I'm not saying anything, Eddie. I'm literally just. I was curious over if you had to choose something that you didn't, a soundtrack you didn't like, detested. Does one even exist for you?
I don't know if I would say like detest, because I just
okay.
I like score music in general. I just don't listen to them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And the score is different. Let me take this the opposite direction. We listen to the score for Encanto all the time. Not the soundtrack, the score. Don't get me wrong. Soundtrack, amazing. Some of the best songs Lin-Manuel Miranda has written. But the score Jermaine Franco did for Encanto is incredible. It's amazing. So I think I more gravitate. I just don't think of it. I'm not pessimistic like you. The glass is half full. I'm not going to think through.
Pessimistic like me. I see what you're doing there.
No, I like James Newton Howard. So I think I've called out his more specifically because I do like his style. But I'll have to think about that. Is there one that I detest where it's like, no, I don't want to listen to that at all?
Challenge accepted. Oh, you thought of one?
Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah, Emperor's New Groove. I do not like the score for Emperor's New Groove. I like the little opener theme song thing, that what's his face saying? I can't remember now. But for the rest of it, no. And then the ending credit song is just horrific. Does not fit well at all. It's
because you don't like Sting. I got it. You don't like Sting.
I like Sting. I like Sting a lot more after the first season of Only Murders in the Building. But yeah, that just didn't work for me at all on any level.
Also a great soundtrack. The intro for their song. We need to get on finishing up the episodes because I know that they dropped the season finale or about to drop the season finale. So
is it today or tomorrow?
I don't know because we're several episodes behind, so we got to catch up.
Okay, we're right on, and we usually watch it on Tuesday nights. So, but yeah, I would say go listen to specifically The Submarine. I have a playlist called Disney Epic, and that's one of the first ones up.
So, Eddie, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first on ranking the fruit snack rating of this movie?
Do you feel tortured on this one at all, or am I the only one?
No. I kind of knew the one I was going to go with, and I've kind of been more solidified the longer we've gone on here. So for me, I don't know why I'm hesitating right now. I'm feeling like I'm about to break your heart.
Because you are. There is deep conflict within you.
There's not deep conflict.
I sense it.
I feel my gut is resolved that I'm going to give this, because of the fact that the story itself is so poor. I don't really have any great quotes from this film, which has started to become an even bigger identifier of how much I love the films. If there's something to talk about after it, or just that I remember from it, I don't have a childhood memory from it. The action was fun. The Atlantis was a letdown. There was no good bad guy in this film. There's no great like singular person. So that's why I'm going to give it a 2.
Whoa! Wow!
I will play it in the background while packing luggage sometime, but it is not something that, it's not a story that I am just dying to reconvene with.
Wow. That's
sorry. People matter more than action.
Yeah, so I was floating a lot higher.
You're floating between a 4.5 and a 4?
No, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I think it is just a tick over there.
Sounds like you're giving it a lot of points for trying something new and being creative points.
And I love until they get to Atlantis, that movie has me. Like, I'm just loving it. I do think it's got some great quotes there with Vinny and Mole and the side characters with Cookie.
That's literally half the movie.
Yeah.
Half the movie sucked.
And it's great. And then we get to Atlantis and it's like, right? But so yes, I am going to give it a 3.5. Because I do really, really, really like this movie. I just wish it could be more.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? Apparently not you.
I do wish it was more. I wish it was better.
We live and we let learn. And with that, your life has forever been changed by another episode of Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast.
Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your other favorite podcasts. And while you're there, you know what? Could you please just leave us a 5-star review? Please, that would just help us so much. Or even better yet, share it with some of your best friends that you would like to go on a journey to Atlantis with.
You can also check us out at honeywemade.com. And there you can see our full movie list as we continue to go through all of Disney's movies from 1988 to 2005. You can go back, see some that we have already reviewed and what was our rating for those. And then also take a peek into the future and what's coming up. Like next week when we review The Princess Diaries.
My wife is going to be
And just
so
to forewarn you, I have a serious crush on Julie Andrews. Well, just going to put that out there.
Not the person I thought you were going to say, but
I love Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews. But thank you for listening. And remember, Atlantis is waiting.